What about security in terms of, so this security versus full virtualization, like what are the security limitations that you're doing here?
So you're running the same kernel.
Yeah.
Anything you can do. So there's a few things around security, and it's a good question. I'm glad you asked, because I didn't cover that as exhaustively as I wanted to, but I ran out of time. This is not the best security. This is a middle step. Virtualization gives you a lot higher level of containment than containerization. That is not to say that you can't. Was it Blue Pill? Isn't that the hack? You know, the VM escapes. They exist, but relatively few and far between. Like when you hear about them, you're like, oh wow, that was cool. So virtualization is relatively secure. Like, I mean, I've based $1 million workloads off of it many times. But containers are a little less that. So one of the things you can think about containers is, for example, running things in a self-contained fashion. So the dependencies of various programs don't interact with each other. So why would that be neat? Well, if you're a programmer, you might want a particular version of a library to work with your thing, and you want to be picky about that, and you want to bundle that. But other programs might want to use that library, and they might want a different version of that library. Well, you can include the things that you care about in your container and absolutely pin them down and guarantee them. Now, it's your responsibility if there's a bug that's found in glibc that you update that container, but it also means that you can control it if you decide to do so. So you're really bundling a program, its dependencies, but not much else. I don't know if that makes sense. So it makes programs very portable in that they have all the bits that they need. They won't bring their own kernel, but they'll bring everything else that they need. And if they base themselves off of a very, very common image, that image is probably already on the host machine. So then all they're really doing is bringing along the changes on top of that image. Actually, I'm going to just do a quick Docker pull Postgres just to see. Oh, I'm in an image, sorry. Docker pull Postgres. So let's see what this is pulling down. So you can see it's got all of these layers that it's pulling down. And each of these layers is really tiny. Probably this top layer is a big one, and it pulled down very quickly because I already had it. But then it's pulling down, these 100 meg, 10 meg layers to kind of tweak it up until you've got a full running copy of Postgres that has all of its dependencies satisfied, but nothing else. So I don't know, does that make sense? Does that answer the question? The security question. So you're sharing the same kernel. So anything that's a shared resource is going to create abilities for friction, for things to interact with each other and poke at each other. And with the namespacing and the C group technologies are really focused on, and what Docker really is, you could roll Docker by hand. You don't need Docker to do all this stuff. It's just Docker provides a really great, easy to use, relatively speaking, this is complex stuff, but relatively speaking, easy to use interface for orchestrating all of this separation of things. But it is a bit of a whack-a-mole. Oh, these things could interact with this in a way that's harmful. Okay, we'll put up a namespace to separate that. Oh, they can interact in this way. We'll put up another namespace. So certainly there are friction points that are available in the system. There's some lists I've seen of them, and Docker's been very good about addressing a lot of those. So if you absolutely positively need security, I can't say that Docker is absolutely guaranteeing security. They make strong statements, but occasionally there are issues. But if you just want isolation, you want to be able to run a package that's very picky and it wants a CentOS installed, You want to spin up a whole new VM, you can use a CentOS container. Oh, and this one's based on Gen 2. Okay, well, I'll go run the Gen 2 container. And each of those applications can have their own little execution environment in their libraries and be happy, but that doesn't say anything about what you're running when you fire up, I don't know, what games are people playing?